Welcome to episode 3.
Wow. So episode 3 already. Damn.
Wow. Yes. Isn't that exciting?
Yeah, episode 3. Okay.
Can I just say, on this recording, our teeth look great. They both look really white.
Yeah, I mean, we both did have them
bleached.
Yeah. Maybe 2-3 months ago.
Yeah. But I do think having bleached teeth, it makes it look whiter on camera than it does on real life.
Your teeth look pretty white in real life. They look whiter than mine in real life.
Well, I had mine done sooner than yours.
Yeah. More recently.
I think mine look a bit yellow in real life. I think it's something to do with the camera.
The colour match. Colour
match. Camera colour match.
Pretend that I know all of that. This camera's a little bit biased.
I mean,
camera bias.
More power to the camera bias. I'm
Maybe it's because I'm drinking black tea.
Maybe.
Is that staining my teeth?
Well, I drink black coffee, don't I? Although I go through phases. I'm phasing out black coffee at the moment. Yeah, anyway, this was not what we came to talk about today.
No, and then we just got in a tangent about ADHD diluting.
Yeah. So this is a really interesting topic that we don't actually agree on, I don't think.
No.
And it's about whether the amount of new diagnosis coming through, amount of people requesting diagnosis, or not even being diagnosed, but saying they have ADHD, self-diagnosing, thank you, they have ADHD, is that making it less meaningful? And you're inclined to say yes, and I'm inclined to say no.
Yeah, I mean, I think the diagnosis and the non-diagnosis, you can, I'm okay with that. If you want to diagnose yourself, self-diagnose, or you get diagnosed and you think you're ADHD or you are ADHD, that's fine. I think it's more around the content. I don't think there's enough emphasis on the struggles that come with ADHD. I think those have watered down because it's kind of oh, if you have a floor wardrobe, or if you have this, or if you have that, no one really talks about the real struggles that really impacts your life. If you're trying to do something that's really important, and you just can't focus, or and you just get really distracted, or having really intense rage for no reason at all. You're just really overwhelmed and you have so much rage and you don't know where to put it. And I was writing a piece this week because I think I texted you, and I was just I have so much rage and I just have to figure out how to express it. And you were how are you gonna express it? And I didn't text you back because I was just I'm trying to. But that's one thing that came out of that is there's a glorified, this is what ADHD looks like, or this is what autism looks like on a very top level, but there is this underlining current of all the negative. It's not negative, it's just you get really angry for the smallest thing, or you're just overstimulated, and that converts itself into rage. And I think that's what has happened for me. Or you just there's just a lot going on and you just can't process that amount of information. So it makes you really sad and depressed sometimes. I don't think people talk enough about those things. I think people talk about all of the fun stuff that comes with ADHD or autism. So that's why I mean diluting it, because it's kind of the toxic positivity type thing.
Yeah. And there's a few bits into that. There's some bits that I agree with and bits that I don't agree with. I don't think I feel the rage. I get very easily frustrated with things.
Yeah.
So computers, Like, very easily will I get frustrated at something if it doesn't work. Not being able to open a jam jar, can't do that. So frustrating.
Yeah.
But then my rage doesn't last. It's like, there and gone, I've moved on to the next thing.
Yeah.
So I wonder whether there's something in, if there's like a continued feeling of rage, whether that comes with slightly more of an autistic trait. And in terms of the dilution, I don't think we can undervalue other people's experiences. If people are self-diagnosing with ADHD, then maybe there's just a lot more people who have it than we've, as a society, ever thought. And I think it's great, actually. There's many more people with ADHD who are visible, so that it no longer feels shameful to have something that is not seen as normative. Can walk down the street and have conversations with people and be like, oh yeah, I've got ADHD. And it becomes this normative conversation rather than something that is subnormative. And while I recognise it absolutely might mean that the difficulties are not being discussed as much, surely having more awareness in the ether is a good thing.
100%. Yeah. But I think we need to bring light on the whole spectrum that comes with those, being either ADHD or autistic or both. I think even dyslexia, I think we need to shine a light on all of the spectrum that comes with that, rather than like just zoning in on the nice bits that is palatable for people to digest.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think, so I think that's why I like calling it a superpower. I think that is part of that toxic positivity.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's almost like this, why do we have to label everything? But like, actually, we should be thinking of everything that comes with it. It's the whole package, the good and the bad, the entirety of the experience. And I understand why people kind of calling it a superpower, because there are some things that come that are quite positive traits, actually, that I enjoy having.
Yeah.
But like everything in life, it doesn't come without balance, and the balance is actually other things are more of a struggle. A great example, time management. Like, I am 100% time blind. Like, I have zero time awareness. So that means I'm late for everything, which actually I'm very fortunate in the people around me and my friends. They're all like, it's now almost become this like comedy quirky thing. Oh, that's Sabrina, she'll be late. But because I can't manage time. So that's like a negative impact on my life. That can be very frustrating, actually.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah. And for me as well, it can be really annoying because it doesn't matter how hard I try. Like, I can get all my stuff ready, all my ducks in a row. I'll leave early and I'll think I've got loads of time, and I'll still be late. I'll still be like 10 minutes late. And it's a negative aspect. It's those negative aspects, I think, just not talked about.
Yeah. I think one thing that I realised this week was, like, with work, I'm time blind with work because I don't even know if it's procrastination. It's kind of like, okay, yeah, I have loads of time. Yeah, like, that's the deadline. And then next minute it's the end of the day and I'm like, where the fuck did the day go? Like, I didn't do anything, but I was doing stuff, but obviously not the stuff that I was meant to do. But why is it now 5 o'clock when I looked at time and it was like 12, like before?
Yeah. But then there's some hyper focus in that, I imagine. There's probably a little bit of like doing things that feel easier rather than the bits that you need to do.
Yeah. And that's it. Like, it's kind of knowing to manage and prioritize your time. I struggle with
manage and prioritize time. These are like buzzwords that neurotypical people came up with to make people with ADHD feel fucking bad, because I don't know that I've ever fucking done that in my life. I've just gone, okay, what's the next thing that someone's shouting at me for? I'm just going to do that.
Yep.
So I just don't think manage and prioritise time for productivity It's not a real fucking thing for people with neurodiversity or like ADHD and autism, let's say specifically.
Yeah.
And also dyslexia. Because again, not a real thing for me. It's just what's the next fire I need to put out. So I have this thing, figured out quite recently, that if I'm not close enough to a deadline, I have very literal brain fog. I've been trying to get all my master's work done. Unless I'm like 2 days, 3 days away from the deadline, I will be staring at a blank screen. You know, like people talk about baby brain. I feel like I have like ADHD brain. Like there's a literal brain fog that goes on that then all of a sudden, like 2 or 3 days before, I'm like, ping, lifts and I can like write like a maniac.
Yeah. I experienced that as well.
Yeah.
That's why I was just like, yeah, I get that. It's weird because you'll be staring at the screen and you're like, I know I'm meant to do this. I know the information. Why isn't it coming to me? Why? I don't know what to write. For me, it's always the day before. And then I'm like hyper focused. Everything's coming through. And then I remember I have dyslexia. So it's so like everything's coming out and then it's like, I don't have enough time to get this proofread. Yeah.
But I think there's something really important there about working with. So what I kind of learned through doing my master's is it's pointless me going, yeah, I'm going to do this in this week and this in this week, because it just doesn't work. And then all that happens is I feel bad, but I haven't done the goals that I've set up. So then I have not only a sense of shame about my neurodiversity and this brain fog that I have, and then guilt that I haven't done it, and then stress and panic because I'm like, oh my God, now I've only got 3 days to do it and I've left everything to the last minute. And oh my God, why do I do this all the time? And then the negative self-talk that comes with that.
And then you get frustrated and then you get frustrated for being frustrated.
So actually, I kind of threw it all out the window and was like, I'm just going to accept that I'm not going to do my work until 2 or 3 days before. What do I need to do to make sure that I can get to that deadline? But just know that I'm not going to do more than 2 or 3 days before, because my brain is not going to allow me to do that work before that. And that's kind of how I've managed my work, because then I don't have all the guilt and shame and negative self-talk that actually has been so harmful to me in the long run. And completely unnecessary, when actually I can find different ways to work better with how I work.
Yeah, and life becomes all about managing your, I don't want to use symptoms, but like your traits that come with you. So like recognizing them and then learning to manage them. Find out what works best for you, because it's not for everyone. Not everyone has or experiences those difficulties in the same way. But it's working out, okay, I need to be at this place for this time. What's going to work for me? If I need to be somewhere and it's really important, I give myself a false deadline, a time. So I'll give myself an hour before or something like that. Sometimes my autism kicks in and I actually get there on time. There are other times where I'm like, oh, I'm just going to clean the kitchen. I've got 5 minutes. And then it's like, damn, I should be there like now type thing. So yeah, I guess it's learning to manage yourself.
Yeah, that's my favourite. Like leaving when I should be there.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Going to be 10 minutes late. You haven't even left yet.
Haven't left yet. So one of my management skills is for everyone around me. I've figured out what my like average late time is, and I'm averagely late by 30 minutes. So I've pretty much just told everyone around me that I'm probably going to be late for everything by 30 minutes. And now either I'm just really honest about when I'm leaving and text when I'm leaving with the time that it's going to be on Google Maps, and I send them location of where I am so then they can plan their journey. But that then can be difficult because then everyone's moving around me. Or get people to tell me half an hour earlier than we're actually going to meet, because I'll generally be late by 30 minutes.
Yeah. I think for me...
And not actually, then I don't worry about other people being late. That's the one thing. I can't then be frustrated when they're waiting for someone else because they've managed all their diary around me.
I do this thing where I give like a time, but like an ish. So it could be earlier than 8 o'clock. It could be later than 8 o'clock. It's 8-ish. It's 8:30. It's still 8-ish. Or like a bracket of time. So between 8 and 9, or I don't know, just not give time at all. Just be like as early as possible. Like I said to you, in my head, I was getting here for 9. I obviously didn't get here for 9. It was more 9:45.
Yeah. But in that scenario, you didn't give me a time at all. So I woke up and texted you. I was still in bed. And then you were like, I'm on my way.
In my head, it was like...
Yeah, that would be more helpful.
Well,
enough time.
Yeah, I was like, as early as possible. But then I was just like, it would be really odd if I got there like 7 or 8. Because, like, generally people are sleeping.
Although that does bring me on
to
another trait. Like something that I notice you do is sometimes you have a conversation with you and forget to have the conversation
100%.
with me.
I do it all the time.
Yeah.
I don't even realise I do it.
No. So like I'm sure in your mind when you were like, I'm gonna get there for 9, somehow you communicated that to me.
So I thought I messaged you and said that, and I actually went through our chat and I was like, oh, I didn't tell her 9.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna tell her I'm on my way. So you know it's going to take me about X amount of time to get her.
Yeah. But you do that a lot. So I wonder whether that's part of like an autism trait or whether that's a you thing.
Yeah. Or it might be like a special ADHD trait. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we promised it in our last episode. We're going to talk about what your work is with your masters.
Okay, so shall I just chat and you can like interrupt me if you have questions?
Yeah, that's the only way. That is the only way.
The only way is up. So I'm looking at consciousness. So I'm looking at the difference in decision making between conscious decision making and subconscious decision making. And I'm doing this because actually subconscious is somewhere down here for me. It may be different for everyone, but I kind of am loosely it's my like gut response.
Yeah, like your gut feeling.
Yeah, but
when you get like the butterflies, that like all of that comes from your...
Yeah, but it's not that for me.
Okay,
it's a different thing because that's emotion, and actually, what I'm not measuring is emotion.
Okay,
I'm measuring subconscious decision making processes.
Okay, so that gut feeling.
For some people, it's a gut feeling. So for other people, it might be an internal voice.
Okay.
For other people, it might be like an associated body movement. It has also been described as, when you go to sleep and then wake up with an answer the next day. So the subconscious decision-making can look different for different people. What it's not to be confused with is emotion, because emotion is a message to the body to say that something feels a certain way, and that might lead to a subconscious decision, but it isn't necessarily derivative of a subconscious decision. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, for instance, let me give you an example. An emotion might be, I'm really angry, so I feel like I'm going to punch a wall. Well, the subconscious and the subconscious decision making likely are probably going to say, if you actually check in with ourselves, that's not going to be a very good idea. But the emotion might be so overwrought that we do it anyway, because we're in the emotion and we're not with our conscious or subconscious decision-making processes. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
So that leads me into something really slightly different. How do we distinguish what is a subconscious decision over and amongst trauma responses, for instance, or emotional responses? How as a species, as a being, do we distinguish what the difference is?
Yeah. So I guess like also that thought that you have in your head, like I guess when you have negative self-talk, that voice is not necessarily the conscious. That's just, sometimes it's a protection. So how do you distinguish between that and
the conscious mind?
The conscious mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Because actually what I'm measuring is when the subconscious and the conscious are not in agreement, whether anxiety is produced. So some of that negative self-talk can be because of the anxiety that's being produced, rather than the decision-making processes. And then the other part that I'm measuring is whether or not that anxiety is increased if the decision impacts someone else. So it's the conflict between the conscious and the subconscious in decision-making processes, and whether that then produces anxiety.
Right, okay.
So with that, if I prove that there's a link, which I'm hoping I will be using all the trauma-related information that I know, thinking about how to integrate and build better teams for more whole decision making, more integrative approaches to well-being for individuals and specifically for teams as well. How can teams make better decisions? How can they work together more effectively and have better regenerative cultures for a better work life, essentially?
Yeah. So it's not really focusing on building a team and building those relationships in a team based on skills, because we have that already through the recruitment process, but more how do we connect better as a team and work together?
So there's something called unconscious thought theory that says, and this is hotly debated, by the way, this isn't like this is a done deal theory. It's just a theory that says unconscious decision-making process, subconscious, I should say, are better because actually they're not confined by our experience, whereas conscious decision-making processes are confined by the experiences that we've had, because it's all that we can think about, because that's what the conscious mind does. It thinks about kind of keeping us safe, and that's through known experiences, where the subconscious is kind of open to everything. And there's also another line of thought which basically says, and again, hotly debated, consciousness is a byproduct of socialization. So let me unpick that a bit. As technology has grown, as we've become more social creatures, our consciousness has also grown. So we have a whole part of our brain, which is specific, like the mid part of our brain, which is specifically for socialization. And then on top of that, we've got the prefrontal cortex, which is specifically for like things like logic. And these two elements will grow as we become more socialized, we become more consciously aware, we have to make more logical decisions. But then what that's missing out is like the animal part of the brain, the reptilian part of the brain, the amygdala, the fight flight responses, that doesn't necessarily understand that we're not within a park with a saber-toothed tiger.
Yeah.
But also those kind of more instinctual responses, which, because we're so busy thinking about logic all the time, is this a logical decision? We miss out on those instinctual responses that, according to subconscious thought theory, that are freer in being able to offer us more variety in response, because it means that we won't be repeating the same patterns of behavior. We get to try something new, so some inspired action, for instance, because it's something that we haven't already done. So the idea being that if there's an alignment between our instinctual subconscious decision-making processes and our conscious logical decision-making processes, then there won't be anxiety, and we'll be making good decisions that we don't feel anxious about.
Sorry, I'm just digesting what you said.
Yeah,
that's like a lot.
Do you want me to give you an example? let's say I really want to go traveling, and this is just one that I'm making up, although I do want to go traveling, but fine. My logical mind might be like, I haven't got enough money. I need to work. So therefore, I might never go because logically I'm always thinking I don't have enough money, or I'm too old, or I need to spend my money more wisely. But my gut or my subconscious might be like, oh, I'd love to go and do that. How I really want to go out and I want to go and experience the world. And it might not make sense to the conscious mind, but the subconscious is like, this will be good for you. And then if we can amalgamate the two, then off we go. So it might be like there's some bartering that needs to happen. I'll work for a bit to save the money and go. It might be like I'll figure it out as I go along. But what we can get distracted by is the fear-based elements of the conscious mind.
Yeah.
Rather than trust in the subconscious decision of, actually, this will lead me to new experience and broaden my horizon. And then actually what will then happen is the amount of experiences the conscious mind has seen will broaden, and it will allow us to do those new different things and push us outside our comfort zone. So I'm not saying everyone needs to go traveling. It's just an example of being able to align the conscious unconscious mind.
Okay. So one thing that comes to me, and I think I may have asked you this before, but I'll ask it for the listeners, is how do you distinguish what's a trauma-based response and what's coming from your unconscious? And I guess, like, when I visualize this, like, it's more like a triangle, because there's a battle there. Because say if, like, you go, okay, use your example of like traveling, so you've got, don't have enough money. What if I get kidnapped? I'm just using the extremes here. Or like, what if something bad happens to me? What if I get really sick? Blah 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 blah, like all of that. Or this happened to me last time I went away, so it might happen again. So based on a previous trauma, which is what trauma is. And then you've got your subconscious going, this will be really great for you. Like, how, I guess in those moments, your trauma response is probably the loudest screaming, because that's your flight or fight. So how do you calm that down? Tell that you're going to be okay. Listen to your subconscious, and then align with your conscious.
I mean, that's the premise of all my future work. So let's not give all my money away. I won't get anyone to come and see me then. But I mean, you're right. And there will be some of those elements in that scenario which are true, you know, you might get sick.
Yeah.
And I guess there's a level of then, okay, my gut wants me to do this thing. And my head is saying this. Actually, how can I amalgamate the two? Well, okay, so gut is saying, I'm going to go and do this. How can I use my conscious experience then to make it safe or not traumatic, or rather than just not going?
Yeah. Because and I guess that's the negotiation. Right?
Yeah, that's the negotiation. So conscious mind is there to keep us safe. You know, it's not to be dismissed completely, nor is the subconscious. So I'm saying, actually, we are whole human beings, and actually it all needs to work together rather than one or the other winning. It needs to be this negotiation process, internal negotiation process, where we're checking in with ourselves. I'll be offering coaching support with any of this if anyone wants it.
Yeah, it's a lot to like also understand, and then I guess there's a lot of practice that comes with it. But like, okay, what if you negotiate with the mind, you go on holiday, and then something tragic happens? Do you still continue your trip and finish it, or do you go back to safety? And I think that's also one thing, because I guess if something tragic happens, then it reaffirms.
But that's
Your fight or
it's
flight.
the individual journey.
Yeah.
Like that's such a specific thing, and that may happen,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
it may
of course,
not.
yeah.
So I don't know that it's going to be that continual process of checking in with the self. Okay, how do I feel now? Is this still the right decision for me? Can I still make this safe, conscious mind? In subconscious, is this still what we want to do? And it's that continual negotiation piece and continually being more in the body so that you can hear the subconscious. And I guess that's where it is for me. It's like, are we really aligned in the body to be able to hear what the subconscious is really saying, rather than live in that heady consciousness piece, which might be don't go, run away, fear-based. Are we really listening? Because if we're really listening, or it might be the neurodivergent, go and do everything, which also may not be correct. Or the emotional, oh my God, this is so exciting. But is that? So it's like, how are we really embodied? Are we really in our body to be able to hear the subconscious and to be able to trust it? So there's a big trust piece here, learning about trusting ourselves, trusting the decision-making process that we're going into, and leaning into the uncomfortableness of that, and allowing kind of the decision-making processes to come through. Because tragic stuff will happen, that's part of life. But actually, are we aligned enough to know that we've got ourselves in those situations?
I think sometimes the inner conflict is strong. Like it's really strong. And sometimes, like your soul might be wanting something, and then you have your conscious mind saying something else. And there's also an element of your subconscious being conflicted there. Like, so I guess, like, with that inner conflict, how do you make the inner conflict a little bit more palatable, or turn it?
So it is a whole process.
Yeah.
And it's a process of trust. It's learning to be really, really embodied. It's learning to do practices where we feel safe in our bodies, so that actually when the subconscious comes about, we can trust and learn to trust. And the more that trust is learned, the more the dialogue between the two is an easier negotiation process.
Yeah. I feel like I asked that question in a different way. Yeah.
So there's something also about, for me, about with all of this, about integrity and authenticity. And part of this work for me has been about, can I live a really authentic life? I read the 4,000 Years book, and I'm now like halfway through my life. 4,000 weeks, sorry.
Yeah.
So I've got
like 4,000 years.
Yeah, that's a long time. Hello, dyslexia. Checking that in there. So I've got like 2,000 weeks left to live, more or less, right? And I want to make sure with my last half of my life that I am living the most authentic way, that I'm in tune with actually what it is that my path is, that I'm living my purpose. And actually, my conscious mind doesn't know that. My subconscious will be more attuned to my purpose. So actually, for me, this has been about, how do I tune in to my purpose, into my subconscious, and know that every day when I get up, I've made decisions that are in line with my life, rather than living in this fear-based paradigm, which is great at keeping me safe, but it may not be living my path and living my journey. So that's why I've been really thinking about, okay, where is my journey and how can I find that? And coming back to me, coming back to my integrity, and coming back to my authenticity, and this research then going down that journey of, okay, how can I support others to hear themselves in this really dynamic, embodied way, and support them with their decision-making processes so that they're also on whatever path they need to be on. If we're all living from that space of being really true, how can the world not be a better place for that? If I can leave the world a bit better than I found it through impacting my little corner of the world in this way.
Yeah, 100%. And I think everyone should think about their impact and how they show up in the world as well. And like, I like the fact that you mentioned about your subconscious, because I used the term of it's already written. Like your path in life is already written. It's your choice to follow that path or take another path, but ultimately, because it's already written, you're already going to return to where you need to go. You just might take the difficult route. And maybe you need to take the difficult route because those are the lessons that you need to learn to get to where you need to be, or have the lessons that you need to learn. And you're just actually tuning in and listening to it.
I mean, that's basically what coaching is. Coaching is like, we already have the answers. So you look at systemic practices, it basically says we already have the answers inside of us. There's another theory that actually says that before our subconscious is aware of the actions that we're going to make, something like 400th of a millisecond before it comes into our conscious mind. And then our conscious mind is then aware, like something like 200, I might have this a little bit wrong, but 200th of a millisecond before that action is taken. So we still have an opportunity to do or don't do that thing. But actually, our subconscious knows we're going to do it before we're even like consciously aware of it. So it kind of brings into question, do we already have all the answers inside of us? And when we don't listen to them, is that when we're creating anxiety in our own lives? The conscious mind is supporting us to be able to enact these internal processes that we're already aware of. It's a theory, but something really interesting to think about.
Yeah, that's quite cool too. So maybe you can share some like very top level practices people can do to get in their body.
Yeah. So it will be different for everyone. For me, I quite like co-regulation. So that is having touch of another human being to regulate the nervous system. So it has to be a regulated human, but we are fascinating creatures. We can co-regulate our nervous system through touch with another. So I find that really helpful. Some people find dance really helpful. So movement, shaking, emotional release is another way to move the emotions through the body to allow space for the subconscious. So there's a variety of different embodiment tools that will just start that grounding process so we can start to listen and start to lean in, to trust. A lot of the work is about trusting.
Trusting the process.
Trusting the subconscious decision-making process and trusting ourselves, trusting that we've got us, trusting that our logical mind will create a rational way to move forward in alignment with our subconscious.
Yeah.
Have I blown your mind? It's a lot to take in.
Yeah, I think if you don't do regulation practice anyway, I think people might mock it because they're like, oh, why would I want to do that? Why would I do emotional release work or static dancing or something like that? Like, until they actually do it and they're like, I feel really good. I don't know where I'm going with this, but yeah, like I think just making that first step of getting grounded, because we're very ungrounded humans. I mean, if you live
speak
in
for yourself. We are not ungrounded humans.
I'm very grounded. I'm too grounded, I think, sometimes. But I think just in general, as a populations, I mean, we're living in London. It's you don't naturally ground. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. It's like, as humans across the globe, we don't naturally ground in the way that we should. We're not really connected with nature in the ways that our ancestors were. So we don't have that natural grounding. So we have to seek other ways of grounding. That's what I was trying to get at.
Yeah.
So it could be quite difficult and out of comfort zone to even make that first step and accept how you feel when you are grounded, and really notice the difference between your energy levels and I guess the way you show up in the world.
Yeah. And I think for me, this isn't about being grounded or ungrounded. It's about, that's one way to be able to access the internal systems. It's almost like the internal compass, that's one way to access it. But most people aren't even used to having those internal conversations, with checking in with how they feel or what the subconscious is saying. It's also led by the conscious mind. So it's, you're right, it might feel odd because actually this isn't a practice that everyone will be doing.
I think also a lot of people don't listen to themselves.
I agree.
Because they
that's the whole reason I'm doing this, because actually the subconscious, let me give you a great example. The subconscious might be saying one thing, like screaming, and actually the conscious mind is saying something different. And because we're living in a society that values logical conscious mind thinking, we just do the conscious mind thing. So an example being, I took a job and my gut response was, I felt so afraid. Like my internal world was saying, like, don't make me leave the previous position. Like, I don't want to go. My logical mind was like, this is a great step. It's a promotion. What are you talking about? And actually, it was a terrible decision. I should have listened to my subconscious, because it felt like a conscious decision. It felt like a logical thing to do.
Yeah.
And actually, in hindsight now, I should have listened to my internal processes. And I'm incredibly grateful for that, because without that experience, I would never now be on this journey of thinking about how can we make better decisions and have better decision-making processes which are more aligned. Because without that, I would never have had this. But had I listened to myself, I wouldn't have then been in a very difficult position 9 months later.
Yeah, that's really impactful. Yeah, and I think also like the small things, like you and I go, oh, what should we have for lunch or dinner or whatever? And it's like, what does Benny want? Like, you're actually just asking yourself, what do you fancy? And like, it's just like those small techniques. Like, and it doesn't matter whether you have, I don't know, well, it does. It could be massive for someone, but like, whether you want a salad or a burger, like that's not going to be a massive impact on your life. But actually just checking in with yourself is good practice to go, okay, what does Betty want? Betty wants a salad today, or Betty wants a burger today. And then being okay with the decision, like having that trust and be like, okay, that's what. Yeah.
I mean, you said burger. No, I really want a burger. I was actually just looking at the clock, being like, is it lunchtime now? Can we order burgers?
Yeah. But thank you for sharing.
Very welcome. I will put all the links in the episode description. Yeah. And then anyone they want to get in touch, come and have that conversation with me.
Yeah. Get in touch. Listen to yourself.
Get in touch with yourself.
That should be your tagline. Get in touch with yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. What are we discussing next time?
Well, I think for me, what comes up is spending a lot of time in the jungle and then coming back to London. I think we should talk about nature poverty and how that
Great.
affects
Okay.
us.
Yep.
So again, not just like us, but like us
the wider
as like
community. But also, I think neurodiversity. I think thinking about. So, yeah, nature poverty. I'm not going to describe it now. Let's leave that hanging.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Bye bye.